Welcome to the Exhorter podcast, where we aim to stir up love and good works through bite-sized biblical discussion. Today, we're going to have a conversation about addiction and about the role it plays in all of our lives or the lives of those affected. We're going to get a firsthand account from Jim Ruby, my father-in-law, of his life and his battles, in hopes that it might give some exhortation to people who are currently dealing with this kind of issue in their life, or those of family members. We're looking for things that kind of help us empathize and really understand, because, to some of us, the world of addiction, alcoholism, substances, it may be foreign. And so it's hard to give suggestions or give help to people when you're coming from a perspective of ignorance. At least maybe it does. Maybe it's the same advice. It just feels different from someone who's experienced it. It lands differently. Jim, do you find that the case? I know you've talked to people and given counseling and advice to people in your life. Do you feel like it hits differently from you versus what they might be hearing from family members?
Kind of depends on the person. I mean, sometimes it's easier to discount family members because you're close to them.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's resentments and you can just kind of push them away. But on the other hand, coming from somebody who has hit a lot of bottoms and had a lot of problems, people can discount that too and say that, I've never been that bad, or I'm never going to get that bad.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's just kind of set the stage a little bit. I think it's important that people understand when it comes to addiction, who are you and why are you our subject matter expert today, in our conversations?
Well, it started pretty young for me. I guess if you want to go back even further, it's, we started smoking cigarettes in elementary school. That's kind of where we're at. By junior high school, 12 years old or so, I was sneaking alcohol either from my parents, friends' parents, or neighbors, wherever the opportunity lent itself. And, that was kind of hit and miss. And, within another year, experimenting a little more. That was probably in 8th grade or just after 8th grade, experimenting with pot.
And what year was this in 8th grade?
I graduated 8th grade, 68.
Oh, man, I couldn't even tell you when my date was. It was
it was a small town. I mean, everybody... it was kind of neat because, the elementary schools were separate. Everybody came together in junior high school, and then there were a couple junior high schools that came together in high school. And so I think our class was probably like 300 and some. So we all pretty much knew each other. But I didn't really excel at sports or academics. And so, I didn't hang out with the athletes. I didn't hang out with the...
Where did you find your tribe?
My tribe was the people that, I want to say mischief.
Yeah.
But,
people who jump in the canal with you, right?
Yeah. We, BB gun fights, rock fights, swimming in the canals, diving off bridges, seeing what we could get away with as far as, sneaking alcohol or cigarettes from parents. And then, and it just kind of grew from there. Some friends had older brothers that started getting into things, and so it kind of made it a little more accessible. Freshman year, it picked up a little bit more. And after my freshman year, I was already trying different types of pills and things and alcohol. But after that, I started getting a little deeper into stronger painkillers. And, there was a thing. Well, it was the 60s, hippies, the partying.
But did you need an excuse? It was the 60s.
Yeah. That's, another 60s and 70s. That was another excuse. But there was a lot of people in the 60s and 70s that didn't get wrapped up in things too. So, but yeah, by my sophomore year, I was doing a lot of pills, a lot of pot. I mean, it was actually easier to get those than it was alcohol. And just pretty much taking whatever was around. And I'm not sure if I was suspended in my junior year, but my senior year, I was suspended a couple times for being under the influence at school. The third time, they expelled me. But they did say since I was young in my class, if I stayed out of trouble, I could come back and finish the next year. And I think that was more out of sympathy for my parents than for me, because, I mean, people knew my parents through business, through some had gone to school with them. And so, yeah, they said I could come back and I could finish the following year if I stayed out of trouble. Well, right after I turned 18, I got in trouble. It was in the newspapers and I was out of school. So,
wow. So small town, that big a deal.
Yeah.
Your dad was, he had vineyard?
No, he was fruit broker.
Fruit broker. Broker. Okay. I thought he was a grower.
No, he sold and he was an accountant. So he did the books, he did the sales and everything for the packing house. So basically, he would sell the fruit for the farmers.
So yeah, he was writing connection because it's an ag.
Yeah,
it's an ag town.
Town, a small town. So everybody knew, they would know what I was doing before I even got home. It's phone people would call. But I did finish in high school at night school. I graduated there and got married right out of high school for a short time. That was kind of a mess. I was a mess. And so that's kind of how it went from, through the 20s. I know I had a job. I got a job and I held on to that for 15 years. A small boat shop here in Clovis. And it was kind of a party place. As long as we got our quota done, they didn't care what we did at break or lunch. So that was, alcohol was a constant there, breaks, lunch, then get serious afterwards. And, then I'd gotten married in 78 to a girl I knew in high school. And we had a daughter, Jennifer. And I just kind of continued spiraling down, pretty much drinking constantly, taking whatever was available, anything and everything. And
why do you think that time in your life was a spiral?
It just progressed.
Okay. I didn't know if it was, troubles in marriage or just in general, a different lifestyle or in lifestyle changes.
Yeah, no, I had gone maybe 6 months without drinking or using right after I turned 18 when I got arrested. They put me on a program, PC 1000, where if I stayed out of trouble and went to their educational meetings for 6 months, then it would stay off my record.
That was the first recovery.
Well, that wasn't even a program. That was just a probation. Yeah. And so I did that. But then, I slowly, started to drink some, and then everything just picked up again. And over time, it just got worse and worse. I would, all of my check was going towards alcohol and drugs. It is getting to a point to where the people that I partied with didn't. Friday, we'd get off work, we'd go fishing Friday night, and I'd get home Sunday night, and, money's gone, and get up and go to work and do it all over again.
Sure.
My wife at the time and Jennifer had been spending a lot of time with her sister, Janelle, and started going to church, and she obeyed the gospel and was baptized. And it was a really trying time for her because I was spending all the money. She was trying to make ends meet, and a husband who's, not around. And when he is, he's not around. So, she got a lot of support from Janelle, and she was meeting a lot with Jack and Ann Hafer, who had, been doing Bible studies with her, and I avoided them as best I could. They'd come up the front door, and I'd go out in the garage, or I would go out the back door and leave. I didn't want anything to do with that. And it just things kind of, it's like I hit a brick wall.
Why did you want to deal with that? Was it like just holding up a mirror and you didn't want to look in? I
didn't want anything to do with religious people. It was, I was doing my thing, and that's and so yeah, I said that's not me. That's if it helps you, that's fine. But and it got to a point to where company picnic, I had playing volleyball. Everybody was drinking. We had kegs out there that the employer provided, and I messed up my ankle, jumped up and came down in a hole. And so I was on crutches, couldn't work right then. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go into treatment. Nobody will really know. I tried to I couldn't get in because insurance wouldn't cover it then. A couple of years after that, I don't know. I was home alone. I used up all the drugs. I pretty much drank all the alcohol. I had no more money. I owed a dealer money. I owed the store where I charged my alcohol money. They say it's hitting a bottom. I hit a bottom, and I called the treatment program that night. And so they told me to come in. They did their assessment, and they said, well, we don't have any openings for probably a week. So my parents were involved in my wife had called them. So they said, well, you live out away from everybody, so why don't you guys stay out at your parents for the week? Go ahead and buy them beer. Don't let them get any car keys. Don't let them leave.
Sure.
Just let them stay.
But keep you in a neutral state.
Yeah. For a week till they could get me in.
Yeah. It's an interesting, just buying beer. Like that's an interesting.
Yeah. It's
placation, but I understand.
Yeah.
What that's going for.
Keep him. Yeah, because for one, if I started detoxing, then I would have been even more motivated to walk wherever I had to walk, get whatever I needed. So,
that's kind of crazy too. That there's some people that could hear the word no, be at the bottom, and just no availability, no. Like how many people don't make that call, and you never hear from them again?
Yeah,
like that's that point where it's shocking that you would, if they didn't give you that suggestion of staying a week out at your someone's house, that
because the first time I had tried to go in and my insurance didn't cover it,
right.
There was still some reluctance, even though it was kind of my idea, because
there's no way for you to get help.
Yeah, insurance. They insurance wouldn't cover the inpatient, so they referred me to another program, a county funded one. It was outpatient, and I just I'm not going to do that. So the motivation wasn't quite there yet. The following time it was, and so after a week, I got in there.
Mm-hmm.
I did that. They said, I was there for 30 days.
You were in your 30s at this time?
I was 30.
30?
Yeah. Which is kind of funny because, people used to ask me, it's like, oh, when are you going to quit doing this? When are you going to straighten up? When are you going to straighten up your life? It's like, maybe when I'm 30, I'll be too old to have fun then anyway. So it's like, yeah.
Sure.
30, I ended up. But the other part of that too is, I had mentioned that, Debbie had been going to church. She had obeyed the gospel and been studying and things. And, during one of the family groups, she had said that it was probably just that previous week she had it. She just asked God. She said, either take him or fix him. So that...
How was that like to hear?
That was pretty powerful because it's, I was at that point. It's like, I'm either going to stop or die. And so I went in. They said that's, I thought, 30 days, I'm good to go. They said, no, you're going to go to this outpatient program for, at least another 3 months, which I did. And, we did a lot of family counseling. They had children's group for Jennifer. And things got good. Jack came and saw me while I was in treatment, and like I mentioned, I didn't really want, it's like, I don't know if I wanted, yeah, but we talked.
I'm glad that I got to meet Jack, a few years ago, because hearing, how important he was to you in that time of your life, it's kind of an interesting bookend there for me to put together. And I didn't realize and appreciate, his influence in your life.
Oh, yeah.
At that time, because I would have been a lot more keyed into that last time I met him, so.
Yeah, it's, and we ended up being good friends. It's, our families took a trip down to Disneyland, and, when they moved up to Idaho, we went up, we went up and visited them 2-3 times, I think. In fact, we even thought about moving up there. But I started going to college, city college. Had to kind of start the bare minimum because I didn't get a whole lot out of high school. I'm surprised I got as much as I did. But
you're doing self-improvement, building a better life.
Doing meetings. We were, I was going to school, going to church. I'd been baptized. In fact, I graduated from City College with Paul and Isabel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all graduated together. Had a graduation party. And then I went on to Fresno State. The goal was to get a bachelor's in social work and then a master's in either counseling or psychology. And I got hired at the treatment program that I'd gone through and started working there. First overnight shifts, then evening shifts, then day shifts, and running groups. And so things were going good. They were busy. I was working, going to school, had family. And I don't know, I was there for about 10 years. I don't know, I think over a couple year period, Debbie and I split up in 97. So it was probably a good year and a half, 2 years before that. We, I guess I could call it a midlife crisis. Both of us at the same time.
From what I heard, you guys were teaching Bible studies. Yeah. You were doing some counseling with people in the church, and for all intents and purposes, you were, living this strong family in the church, life.
Yeah.
It sounded like at some point in time, it started creeping back into your life.
Yeah. Kind of marriage and influences. But by then we were all, kind of finding fault with the church or people in the church. They weren't doing this or they were doing that. And too restrictive, too conservative. I mean, we just started finding faults.
Interesting.
And
House of Cards.
Yeah.
You start pulling one, you don't really know what the
and then the neighborhood influences, alcohol came into the picture then. We bought a motorcycle, figured that might be good. We could, do things together, go out. And, but when we go on rides with people, I mean, the rides would consist on going from bar to bar to bar.
Sure.
And I wasn't drinking. I mean, you can only drink so many sodas and, and everybody else is drinking.
I mean, your resistance is only so strong.
Yeah. And, and then we quit going to church. I think we told the elders we were going to go someplace else, but I think they knew they didn't. And they made efforts to, meet with us, which we, avoided.
What do you mean? People just say that they would go to another church and they just don't go at all? It's funny you mentioned that because I don't think it's like a not so secret, right?
Yeah.
Just something people do. It's an easier thing to avoid.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable scenarios, right?
Yeah. We had been cleaning the building at the time, and so we let that go. And I said, we're gonna go someplace else, and we weren't going at all. And so we never met with them, and things just kind of got worse. And I knew marriage was, not good. And At some point, I was doing some work around the house, and we had alcohol in the house
It was back in.
then, and that why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, I took a drink.
How long had you been sober?
12 years.
12 years.
Yeah. So yeah, that's and it was that easy. I was working at the treatment program then, and but I kind of getting that cockiness back, and
Take it for granted?
and I knew, yeah,
Take the sobriety for granted kind of thing? Or
Yeah,
just,
exactly,
callously? Yeah.
yeah, and there were some pills, some Valiums that were left out that somebody had to turn in when they came in. I took a couple of those. Those weren't too bad. And then I tried the alcohol at the house. And, before that, I tried like the NyQuil because it has a high level of alcohol. Yeah.
You hear that as
I wanted to drink without actually drinking.
Okay. So
that was my rationale.
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing, but it was easier, but it felt terrible. So then I just went for, what was in the house. And then I'd get off work. I was working out at Reedley at the treatment program. Then I'd get off work and stop and get those little airline bottles and a couple of those. And that, slowly progressed. But to shorten it up, after 12 years of not drinking, within 3 weeks, I was drinking every day and got pulled over on my motorcycle. Pipes were too loud, and I had been drinking.
Oh, not even. Pulled over, not even because of.
Well, it turned out they were doing that's kind of a saturation thing.
A crackdown
on Blackstone, and I decided I was going to go get some work done on a tattoo, and so that was within 3 weeks. So I knew I had to resign from my job. You can't be drinking and counseling at the same time. So. Okay.
So you had had a sense of respect and for the work still, even though you were compromised in some cases.
Yeah. So I told him I was gonna resign, and I talked to the nurse after that. She said, She said the manager wanted to keep you on, after you went through treatment, and she said, he doesn't need to be back here doing that. He needs to work on a recovery. So I went through a program over at Pacific Grove.
Just because it was away from the area?
Yeah.
Away from the influences of life?
I mean, one of the main programs was the one I worked for. And the other one, I mean, I knew people. So basically, I went to the one over there. They got me in, drank a lot before I went in, found out when we got there that, you can't be intoxicated when you come in. I said, okay, well, I'll just spend the night in a hotel. And they didn't let me. They took me in. But it was while I was there.
Was that just like one last hurrah?
Yeah.
I remember what this is like. One last hurrah.
Yeah. I got in there. It was in there that I found out that, my marriage was over. There have been some things going on. So I just made a call and said, you need to move out when I get home. So basically, after 12 years, once I started drinking again, within, a few weeks, I had legal problems. I was back in treatment, out of a job, houses in foreclosure, and having to file bankruptcy and getting a divorce. So things fell apart, pretty quickly. It wasn't completely my alcohol use, but it, I got to take responsibility for, what I did. It could have turned out differently if I hadn't drank. So that's how quickly things got out of control. And then I was in and out over the next few months. I didn't drink that much, but the problems came immediately, because I met a girl that was a friend in treatment over at Monterey. And then so once I knew that the marriage was over, then, we started seeing each other. And she was a bad alcoholic that had been relapsing for years. And so we kind of made the perfect couple, I guess.
Well, sure, you could get lost in your own anonymity and world because
Yeah.
who are you trying to keep it together for?
Yeah. And, the kids, Jennifer was moved out. Taylor was with her mom, I think, part of the time. She might have been with Janelle or Mark and Terry, different times. Not good for her. But I'd stayed sober for about 9 months. And that's when my dad passed away. And got through the funeral and everything, the eulogy, and everything went well. Wanted to get away, went to see my girlfriend on the coast, and got drunk again. Figured I could get away with it one night, but again, got in trouble. So I didn't get away with it. And I believe after that, I probably stayed sober for 5 or 6 years and kind of got back into some painkillers and then alcohol. Taylor had been living with me primarily pretty much during that
sobriety.
During that time.
The 5 years.
Yeah. And so it kind of turned her world upside down again. Well, and I thought I was being pretty slick because I could, we lived next door to 7-Eleven. I could go over there and get several cans of malt liquor and then walk in. I could set them on the fence of the patio and then I'd get home, go out on the patio where the washer was and instead of doing some laundry. And yeah. And one night in typical Taylor fashion, she's, why are you stacking your beers out there? It's like, I didn't know you knew.
Yeah.
I thought I was being sneaky. So
yeah.
But the last time I got sober, it was sobriety date is 1905. Yeah, I was using a lot of painkillers, opiate painkillers, and alcohol. And so I couldn't quit. And so I went into detox. The doctor admitted me, and I stayed in there probably a week, 10 days. They had me in there for a while. And got out, went into a residential program in Fresno here. And that was it. Something happened that time. Can
you pinpoint?
No. I just felt beat. Self-confidence was gone. So that cockiness that I tripped over before was gone. I was beat. And so I just did what I needed to do, trying to work, support Taylor and myself, the best I could, and doing my meetings. And,
wherever it is,
that's it. I didn't.
And that was 18 years.
Yeah.
To now.
I did. I had a friend, and she liked doing things, going to casinos and stuff, going to the show and going to eat, and she could afford that. I couldn't. So yeah, we started going to casinos, and that started feeling like it could be an addiction. So, cut that off. I did lose my mom during that time. And that was hard, but we got through it.
It sounds like there's some interesting strings across your life where a lot of the ups and downs were due to decisions, but they weren't necessarily decisions about alcohol. What I would look at on the high life part there, it's like you had everything, everything was working right. But how the little decisions of like find the faults or, you know, the friends over here or letting their guard down or being cocky. There's little things here and there. It's hard to see. And that's kind of one of the difficult things or sobering things is it's just hard to know when you're making a decision what the end result will be.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things about addiction is, I mean, there's a lot of gray areas out there. Different people can deal with things different ways. I mean, some just stop, some, do programs, some go into church. One of the things they say is, whatever works, do it. But at the same time, I think, like you pointed out, we need to be cognizant of decisions I make or things that I do, because those can lead to me making a really bad decision down the road.
And you mentioned something about you had to kind of pull back from a friendship, from something you enjoyed in your life, because your ability at that time to actually think and see down the road. I mean, there could be triggers here. Some might say, why remove something from your life if it's not a problem? But it takes some sort of sometimes maturity and experience and insight to understand that you shouldn't walk up to that line and look over. Sometimes you need to just turn around and walk away from the line, from the thing that it might be fine. It might bring you joy, but through experiences that you had insight to seeing, oh, that's just not smart. I'm going to stay on this path.
Yeah. And that friend, I mean, we get together for lunch once every couple of months or whatever, but kind of like when we were talking about alcoholism or addiction earlier, it's like, say to young people, it's like, you don't know where it's going to take you. Best case, you won't be, but along that path, keep in mind that when you drink, and if you drink a little too much, you're going to go against your values. You're going to probably do things that you wouldn't normally do. You see on TV shows or on movies sometimes, somebody waking up the next day hungover, not remembering what they did the night before, waking up with somebody they don't know. And it's like...
Is that over dramatized or is that a reality?
It can be reality. I mean...
I don't know.
It doesn't happen all the time, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, people have blackouts.
Yeah.
Well, when I went through the program at Community, there was a kid there who hit and killed somebody and didn't know he did it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that have done things in blackouts they have no recollection of, but they did do it. And that was one of the things they used to kind of determine alcoholism is, if you start having blackouts, then...
I do not like to come across with any judgmental perspective of having never tried alcohol, but it just seems like the most scary thing in the world to me to put anything in jeopardy. And I would hope and want that for my kids to have other reasons not to, but also to say, if it has any risk whatsoever for my life, my soul, there's no value I can have from it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not necessarily throwing that on anyone else necessarily. It just seems like the risk alone.
Yeah. Well, I thank God that I didn't hurt or kill somebody else,
Sure.
When I was out running around. I mean, you see it on the news more and more. Somebody going to prison because, they hit and killed somebody.
I just said sure. And sometimes when I say sure, I think it sounds like I'm callous to the point. But I really mean amen because,
yeah.
I mean, the potential alone, like...
Yeah, well, I mean, aside from the legal aspect, having to live with the fact that you changed somebody's life forever. I mean, for the worse. I mean, either killing them, injuring them to a point where, any point. Well, and then the regrets over the hurt and the pain that I caused my parents, growing up and even as an adult, but more so, I mean, growing up, it's when I had gone into the treatment program, I mean, they shared that they were ready, they were going to, check with a funeral home about making arrangements so that they wouldn't have to deal with it when they got the phone call.
Wow.
Because they knew that, I was probably going to overdose or, something. It wasn't going to end well. And that kind of struck home. So,
Yeah. I maybe there's one last question.
yeah.
Advice towards addiction and substances and just in general.
Talk.
Yeah.
Talk. It's people don't talk about alcoholism. They don't talk about drug addiction. They don't talk about mental health. And they're all there. I mean, in and out of the church. But it's shameful. It's, airing family laundry, whatever. But I think talking, listening when somebody wants to talk. It can be a lonely place, both for the person that's drinking and using and for the family, because like from the family's point of view, they don't know what to do. They don't know what to say. And, a lot of times there's shame related to it. It's like, well, did we do something, It's a family issue.
Yeah.
The person that's drinking or addicted, it's, you just don't talk about it because you don't want people to know the extent or it's a weakness, how could you let that get out of control?
You probably have a lot of negative self-talk and judgment on yourself. Why would you want other people to judge you too?
What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So I think talking, listening, and, trying to be there for each other.
And understanding it's probably a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a marathon.
You have how many years? I'm going to talk to a 12 year since you're 12, but you're how old now?
68. I'll be 69 in October.
Okay. 16. You'll be 69 years young. And
no, 69 years old.
But we're talking about a lifetime. You know? I mean, you've been sober for 18 years. Congratulations. But we're under no false perspective that it's not a journey, of life to stay in the narrow road, to stay on the right side of things. So,
yeah. And I think, there is hope. There is hope.
How many times have you experienced that hope or that second chance?
Yeah, well,
it's a lot of second chances.
Yeah.
It's like someone was looking out for you and knew where your road was going, huh?
Yeah, it's like God must have something for me to do because
I know what it is.
I should have been gone a long time ago.
I know what it is, but that's selfish of me to say. Help watch my kids. No, to be there, influence and for others. I mean, it's not just the family, but I mean, what you're doing right here, I think matters. Yeah,
and that's what I was doing treatment. It's like if I can do something that maybe keeps one person off, then it's worth it. But that's why it really kind of hits me when I see some of the young people making a decision to obey the gospel and be baptized, because I'm thinking, yes, that might give them a better chance. When the temptations come, when you got friends trying to convince you, whatever, it just might give you that edge.
And you probably also look at that too. And I mean, you were baptized a little later in life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the cure-all, though.
No.
It's the start of something, and you gotta water it, you gotta nurture it.
Yeah, I mean, we could walk away, slip away, anytime, but it gives me hope when the younger people do that. Yeah. It's just like, because I've had numerous friends that, like I said, a lot of friends dying when I was in high school, or two closest friends, both dying, one in his early 20s, the other in his mid-late 30s, didn't get to watch his son grow up. And a lot of other people that, died too young because of the alcohol or the drugs. And didn't get to have families, didn't get to have kids or see their kids grow up, grandkids, and died in a lost condition.
That's the warning, but there is
But there is hope. There is hope.
Yeah. And sometimes that hope is professional treatment.
Yeah.
It can't be everything everyone needs all the time. Sometimes people need more. But I do love that the first thing you mentioned there, the advice is to keep talking and reduce the stigma of not talking and have open communication. It's important because that's the first. So, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're kind of doing that right now. Is there anything else that you think is?
No, I think maybe if somebody is in their addiction, talking to people helps. But sometimes talking to somebody who has been there, understand a little more. Because I know sometimes talking to somebody who hasn't ever had a problem, they kind of just look at you like you're crazy and will just stop.
Jim's phone number is 559. To some extent, if you would like to reach out to Jim or you'd like to reach out to any of us, reach out, message and feel free. I know that you're willing to have that conversation with people and listen. I think it's probably
and listening, is one of the biggest things. Just listening and letting a person know that they're not alone. They're not the only one who's been there or gone through that. So.
Yeah, it feels like even in the church, it's probably less talked about than anywhere in life. So it's like even more of the reason to have these conversations and to hear your story. Jim, thank you for the talk. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, we'll have a part 2 of this conversation here shortly. But if you are currently struggling out there in addiction, if you have a family member, if this is a part of your life, I love Jim's exhortation to talk and listen. Start there. And if you need to reach out to people to pray on your behalf, to get intervention, to get help, you don't have to do it in isolation. And you don't have to do it with judgment either. I mean, we all have our thorns in the flesh. We all have those things that we struggle with. And it's being there, not just holding each other accountable, but being there to support one another as Christ would have us. So thank you for tuning in. And if you like this or feel like this is something positive for other people to hear, loved ones, friends, family, we'd love for you to share it. And so it can be a benefit to other people. Thank you.